No one was supposed to be this close. The imperial capital floated at the center of the galaxy like a living star, wrapped in layered defense rings, protected by thousands of warships, and watched by sensors so sensitive they could detect a single ion flare from across a system. Nothing entered this space without permission. Nothing survived if it tried. That was the law of the Galactic Empire. So when the alert sounded, at first, no one believed it. Inside the core command chamber, officers turned toward the central holo display as a soft warning tone repeated, slow, calm, almost polite. The kind of alert reserved for errors, not threats. A junior sensor analyst spoke first, voice unsure. Command, we're detecting an unregistered object inside Defense Ring 7. The chamber reacted with mild confusion, not fear. Defense Ring 7 was already too close. Anything entering it should have triggered alarms hours ago. Recalibrate, a senior officer said. You're reading background noise. The analyst shook his head. It's not noise, sir. It's the ship. Laughter rippled lightly through the chamber. A ship? Someone repeated. Inside Ring 7, the holo display shifted. Stars dimmed. Tactical grids lit up. And there it was. A single warship. Dark. Silent. Motionless. It floated just beyond the inner patrol lanes, positioned with impossible precision, close enough to be seen, far enough to avoid collision paths. Not drifting. Not hiding. Waiting. The laughter stopped. No engine signatures. No shield bloom. No weapon charge. No transponder code. Nothing. How long has it been there? The Grand Sensor Marshal asked slowly. The analyst swallowed. Approximately 4 hours, sir. The chamber froze. 4 hours meant every sensor failed. Every fleet missed it. Every protocol collapsed. That's impossible, another officer said. Nothing crosses the core unnoticed. The Marshal leaned forward. Identify it. The system struggled. Data scrolled. Old databases were queried, some untouched for decades. Then a single word appeared on the display. Human. The silence that followed was heavier than any alarm. Humans? Someone finally said, confused. That can't be right. Humanity was not a threat. They were a footnote. A minor species from a quiet edge of known space. Technically clever, politically weak. Loud once. Ambitious once. Then gone. They had withdrawn from galactic affairs decades ago. No wars. No alliances. No expansion. Just silence. Their fleets were outdated. Their technology is crude compared to Imperial standards. At least, that was what the record said. This must be a relic, an officer muttered. A derelict drifted in by accident. But the ship was not drifting. It was perfectly aligned with the capital's orbital plane, as if it had chosen the spot. Fleet commanders began issuing rapid orders. Patrol ships altered course. Weapons systems warmed, carefully, quietly. Still, the human ship did nothing. No reaction. No movement. No message. It did not flee. It did not threaten. It simply remained. Open a channel, the Marshal ordered. A signal was sent. Formal. Imperial. Absolute. There was no reply. Minutes passed. Then one of the analysts spoke again, voice trembling. Command. I'm detecting micro-adjustments. The ship is compensating for gravitational fluctuations. The Marshal narrowed his eyes. So it's active? Yes, sir. Fully operational. Another pause. Why hasn't it attacked? Someone asked. The question echoed in the chamber, unanswered. The Empire had studied war for thousands of years. Threats announced themselves. Fleets gathered. Power was shown loudly. This ship did none of that. It had slipped past everything. It had waited. And now, it was being watched. Rerun its approach vector, the Marshal said. The display rewound time. Days, then weeks. The projected path made no sense. The ship did not use known jump gates. It did not leave a faster-than-light wake. It did not bend space the way Imperial drives did. It simply appeared, as if distance had never mattered. A cold realization crept through the chamber. If one human ship could do this, then humanity had changed. The Marshal straightened. All fleets hold fire, he ordered. No aggressive action. A ripple of unease spread through the officers. You're letting it stay? Someone protested. The Marshal's voice was low, controlled. It's already here. If it wanted us dead, this conversation wouldn't be happening. As if responding to his words, a light appeared on the holo display. A signal. Incoming transmission. The room held its breath. The message was short, calm, perfectly translated. No threats. No demands. No pride. Only one line. This vessel is not a weapon. The officers exchanged uneasy glances. Then the message continued. It is a navigator. The signal ended. The human ship remained silent. The imperial capital, heart of 1,000 systems, suddenly felt very small. Because the question was no longer how a human warship got this close. The question was far worse. If this ship was only here to guide something else, what was already on its way? The Galactic Empire did not sleep that cycle. Across the core, lights burned in command towers and data vaults. Couriers ran between chambers that had not seen urgency in generations. Admirals argued in whispers. Scientists spoke faster than their translators could keep up. And always, on every display, the same image hovered. The human ship, still silent, still motionless, still close. Grand Strategist Halvern stood before the Imperial Archive wall, a structure older than most member species. Entire wars were stored here. Entire civilizations summarized into neat, confident records. He did not like what he was seeing. Bring up humanity, he ordered. A junior archivist hesitated. Which period, sir? Halvern turned slowly. All of it. The wall shifted. Thousands of entries condensed into a single timeline. Humanity's rise was fast. Too fast for comfort. Short-lived spaceflight. Rapid industrial scaling. Aggressive exploration. Reckless, even. Then came their political phase. Humans demanded seats. Voted loudly. Challenged older species in councils they barely understood. They lost debates. Lost influence. Lost territory. And then, they withdrew, Halvern murmured. Yes, sir, the archivist said. Formally. No conflict. No resistance. The records showed it clearly. Humanity signed the accords, surrendered disputed systems, dismantled several fleets, and retreated into a narrow band of space. After that, the timeline thinned. No expansion. No treaties. No wars. Just silence. They should have collapsed, one advisor said quietly. No allies. Limited resources. Halvern did not answer. He was watching a different data stream now. Sensor projections of the human ship. Its energy profile. Its mass-to-volume ratio. Nothing matched known human engineering. This vessel is not an evolution, a scientist said from behind him. It's a replacement. Halvern turned. Explain. The humans didn't improve their old designs. They abandoned them. Completely. That made the room colder. The Empire had always assumed humanity fell behind. That they failed to keep up with galactic standards. But what if they had rejected those standards instead? Another officer spoke up. Sir, we've completed a deeper scan of the ship's hull. And there are impact scars. That drew attention. From weapons? Halvern asked. No. From something else. We don't recognize the damage pattern. The silence thickened. Humans had fought something the Empire had never cataloged. That meant one of two things. Either humanity encountered a threat too small to matter, or one too dangerous to survive knowledge of. In the core command chamber, the human ship remained untouched. Imperial fleets formed wide, cautious orbits around it, careful not to provoke. The ship did not acknowledge them. It did not turn its weapons, if it even had weapons. It did not raise shields. It behaved like a guest who had arrived early and was politely waiting. Send another transmission, the High Chancellor ordered. This time, the message was not a command. It was a question. Why are you here? The reply came faster than expected. Because you stopped looking. Confusion spread through the chamber. Looking at what? An officer demanded. The human voice returned, calm and measured. In the dark between stars. The message ended. Sensors flared suddenly. Not alarms, background noise. Subtle distortions at the edge of detection. The Empire's deep space arrays adjusted automatically. Then it went quiet again. False reading, most assumed. Except one analyst, who stared at his screen, unmoving. Sir, he said slowly. That wasn't noise. The chamber turned toward him. It was pressure. Something displaced space itself. Very far away. How far? The Chancellor asked. The analyst hesitated. Beyond mapped territory. The room stirred uneasily. That region was unclaimed for a reason. No stable lanes. No resources worth the risk. No strategic value. Nothing worth watching. Except the humans had been watching. The Grand Strategist returned to the archive wall. Show me the last confirmed human fleet sighting, he said. The archivist complied. The image that appeared surprised many. The fleet was small. Modest. Old by Imperial standards. But the date? That was before their withdrawal, an admiral noted. Halvern nodded. That was the last time we saw them the way we expected. He turned back to the human ship's live feed. That ship out there, he said, was not built to impress us. The realization spread slowly. It was built to survive something else. A new message arrived without warning. No signal spike. No transmission flare. It simply appeared in the system. Your defenses are loud, the human voice said. They announce you. Several admirals bristled. Our defenses have held for centuries, one snapped. Yes, the human replied. Against what you know. The ship shifted then. Just slightly. Not toward the capital, but outward. Toward the dark. Sensors adjusted instinctively, following its orientation. For a brief moment, the Empire's instruments caught something. A ripple. A shadow. Then nothing. What was that? The Chancellor demanded. The analyst swallowed. I don't know, sir. But it noticed us. The chamber erupted into overlapping voices. Noticed us? Impossible. Our borders are secure. Then why is the human ship still here? The human voice returned one last time. We did not come to ask for permission. Silence. We came to ask if you would listen. The transmission cut. Far beyond Imperial space, something shifted again. This time, the sensors did not dismiss it. This time, the readings aligned. Massive. Approaching. Not hostile by nature. Hungry. The Empire had ruled the galaxy for millennia. But for the first time, it felt like a civilization that had forgotten how small it truly was. And the human ship, alone, quiet, unarmed, remained between the Empire and the dark. Because it had not come to prove human strength. It had come to see if the Empire was worth saving. The Empire believed the humans were warning them. They had not yet realized the humans were already too late to stop it alone. The Imperial cartography vault had not been opened in centuries. It was not because the Empire lacked curiosity. It was because the galaxy, to them, was already known. Mapped. Measured. Owned. The borders shifted, empires rose and fell. But the shape of space itself did not surprise them anymore. Until now. The vault doors slid open with a sound like old metal waking up. Inside, a circular chamber waited, dark, silent, and lined with projectors designed to render space not as symbols, but as truth. Real distances. Real mass. Real emptiness. Grand Strategist Halvern stood at the center with a small group of scientists and admirals. The human ship's latest data streamed into the system. Project the navigator feed, Halvern said. A technician hesitated. Sir, it doesn't broadcast. Halvern did not turn. Then how do we have it? The technician swallowed. We don't know. It appeared in our systems after their last message. Like it was placed there. The room dimmed. Stars bloomed into existence around them, forming a familiar map of Imperial territory. Trade routes glowed. Defense rings shimmered. Borders stood clean and proud. Then another layer activated, and the room went silent. A second map overlaid the first. It was wrong. Not inaccurate, wrong. Distances bent. Regions stretched. Entire systems appeared closer together than Imperial science allowed. Some areas were marked not by stars, but by shadows. Long, uneven scars across space itself. What is this? An admiral whispered. Halvern stared, unmoving. It's not a map of where things are, he said slowly. It's a map of where things move. A scientist stepped forward, eyes wide. These patterns, they aren't gravitational. They're predictive. Predictive. The words settled like ash. This is a navigation model, the scientist continued. Not for ships. For entities. No one asked what kind. They already knew. The human ship remained silent in orbit, but its presence now felt heavier. As if it had always been part of this moment. Overlay known Imperial scans, Halvern ordered. The system complied. Most Imperial data vanished instantly, dismissed as irrelevant. What remained aligned perfectly with the human map. Every unexplained loss. Every missing probe. Every fleet that vanished beyond the frontier. All of it followed the same paths. We didn't lose them to pirates, an officer said quietly. No, Halvern replied. We lost them to traffic. A message arrived from the human ship without a preamble. Your maps assume space is empty, the voice said. It is not. The Chancellor's image flickered into the chamber. Explain, the Chancellor demanded. The human reply was calm. When humanity withdrew, we did not seek peace. We sought quiet. We removed ourselves from the main routes. We stopped broadcasting. We learned to listen. The map shifted again. A new layer appeared. Human space. Or rather, what used to be human space. It was barely there. Their systems were marked faintly, spread thin, scattered like islands instead of clusters. You abandoned your worlds, the Chancellor said. No, the human voice corrected. We unstacked them. Confusion rippled through the room. The scientist spoke again, almost to himself. They reduced density, minimized patterns, make themselves harder to notice. To what end? An admiral demanded. The human ship finally turned, just a fraction, toward the capital. To survive the things that hunt structure, the voice said. The map pulsed. One of the shadowed regions expanded slightly. Imperial sensors flared in response. This time, the readings did not fade. Mass registered. Size unknown. Trajectory locked. How long until contact? The Chancellor asked. The room waited for the answer. The analyst swallowed. At its current rate, weeks. Weeks. For an empire that planned wars in decades, that should have been nothing. But the human voice did not sound relieved. Weeks are generous, it said. That is how long until it reaches your outer lanes. You will notice it sooner. And you? The Chancellor asked. How long did you notice it before it reached you? The pause that followed was the longest yet. Then, years. The room felt colder. Halvern stepped forward. What happened when it arrived in your space? The map changed again. Entire regions dimmed. Human colonies, once alive, now marked as silent. We fought it, the humans said. Loudly at first. Images appeared. Blurred. Incomplete. Human ships firing weapons the Empire had never seen. Brilliant. Desperate energy against something that did not behave like an enemy. Then silence. We lost, the voice continued. Not because we were weak. Because we were visible. The images shifted. Human ships began to disappear, not destroyed, but gone. No explosions. No debris. They follow attention, the humans said. They move toward complexity, toward noise. A realization struck the room like a physical blow. The Empire was the loudest thing in the galaxy. Millions of ships, trillions of citizens, endless energy signatures, constant expansion, a beacon. You're saying it will come for us, the Chancellor said. The human reply was immediate. It already has. The map zoomed outward. The shadow moved again. Closer. Faster. Imperial admirals began issuing orders without being asked. Fleets repositioned. Defense platforms spun up. Ancient weapons warmed for the first time in generations. Your response will attract it sooner, the human warned. We will not sit idle, an admiral snapped. You already are, the human replied. You just don't know it yet. Halvern stared at the map, then at the human ship. You brought us this map, he said. Why? The human answer was quiet. Because you are still structured. You still have a chance to change. The Chancellor clenched his jaw. And if we don't? The human ship did something unexpected. It powered down. Not completely, but enough. Its emissions dropped below Imperial background noise. On the map, its marker faded. It will stop noticing us first, the human voice said. Then it will notice you. A chill spread through the chamber. You're abandoning us? Someone shouted. No, the human replied. We are showing you what quiet looks like. Outside the vault, alarms began to sound. Not warnings, but system adjustments as Imperial networks tried to compensate for the human ship's sudden absence. Sensors struggled. Maps flickered. The Empire had built everything on being seen. Now, for the first time, it faced something that hunted exactly that. The human ship reappeared. Faint, controlled, distant. One ship is not enough to guide you, the voice said. But it is enough to ask the question. The map froze. The shadow moved again. Closer still. The Chancellor looked at Halvern. What question, he asked. Halvern answered without looking away. How much of our power are we willing to turn off before it's too late? The Empire had spent millennia proving it was impossible to ignore. Now, survival demanded the one thing it had never practiced, silence. The Imperial capital had never dimmed before. Its light was a symbol of dominance, stability, and endless control. Entire cultures oriented their calendars by its glow. To darken it, even partially, felt like sacrilege. Yet now, deep within the core, the unthinkable was being discussed. Reduce emissions by 10%, Grand Strategist Halvern said. The order echoed across command levels, met with disbelief. 10%, an energy overseer repeated. That would cripple trade traffic. It would disrupt civilian habitats, another warned. Medical grids alone. I am aware, Halvern replied. Do it anyway. Across the capital, systems adjusted. Power levels dipped. Decorative energy fields faded slightly. The capital still shone, but less. On the tactical displays, something else happened. The shadow on the human map slowed. Only slightly, but unmistakably. A hush fell over the chamber. It reacted, a scientist whispered. Yes, Halvern said. To be absent. The human ship drifted nearby, faint as a ghost, its presence barely detectable now. It had not issued new instructions. It had simply demonstrated. Raise emissions back, an admiral snapped. We can't weaken ourselves on faith. Halvern turned. This is not faith. This is evidence. The admiral scoffed. From a species that abandoned the galaxy. The human voice cut in, not sharp, not angry. We did not abandon it, the voice said. We survived it. The Chancellor gestured for silence. Explain something to me. The Chancellor said to the human ship. Why warn us at all? There was a pause. When we first encountered them, the humans said, we believed we were alone. Then we believed we could fight. Only later did we understand the truth. And that truth is, the Chancellor pressed. That survival is not victory, the human replied. And isolation is not safe. The chamber grew quiet. We learned to be quiet, the voice continued. But quiet alone does not stop them. It only delays them. The map pulsed again. The shadow was closer now. Still distant, but no longer abstract. How many of you survived? An aide asked quietly. The human answer was slower. Enough to remember why we failed. Images appeared on the display, human records this time. Not battles. Evacuations. Cities dismantled piece by piece. Entire worlds stripped down and abandoned, not in panic, but with grim precision. These were not defeats, the humans said. They were decisions. The Empire had never made decisions like that. They built, expanded, claimed. They did not let go. Why show us this? The Chancellor asked. Because you are at the moment we were, the human replied. And you are about to make the same mistake. Alarms flared suddenly, not warnings, but alerts of unrest. Across the capital, citizens noticed the dimming. Markets slowed. Media channels demanded explanations. Rumors spread faster than truth. The Empire had always ruled through certainty. Now certainty has cracked. We cannot ask our people to live smaller, an admiral argued. Our strength is visibility. Yes, Halvern said quietly. That is exactly the problem. The human ship spoke again. You believe power is accumulation, it said. So did we. The map shifted. Human space before the collapse appeared. Dense, bright, proud. Then after, sparse, quiet, alive. You think reducing yourselves means losing, the human said. It does not. It means choosing what must remain. The Chancellor leaned back, weary. You're asking us to dim the heart of an empire, he said. To rewrite what we are. No, the human replied. We are asking if you are willing to continue being. Silence. Then the sensor screamed. This time, it was not subtle. A long-range array detected a distortion, wide, slow, and undeniable. The shadow no longer hid. It did not accelerate. It did not need to. Its path intersected Imperial space with calm certainty. How long now? The Chancellor asked. The analyst's voice shook. Days. The chamber erupted. Orders flew. Fleets scrambled. Ancient weapons powered up fully for the first time in living memory. The capital's glow surged back as systems abandoned restraint. On the human map, the shadow reacted instantly. It surged. The human ship flared back into visibility. Stop, the human voice said. The Chancellor froze. You just called it, the human said. Louder than ever. The Empire's greatest strength had just become a signal. What do we do? Someone asked. Not demanding. Begging. The human ship turned toward the capital fully now. For the first time, the voice said, you must choose to lose on purpose. Halvern stared at the glowing capital on the display. What does that mean? He asked. It means, the human replied, you will give up worlds. Fleets. Symbols. The room reeled. Impossible, an admiral said. That would fracture the Empire. Yes, the human said. That is the cost of remaining. Another sensor alert cut through. The shadow split. Not into enemies. Into paths. Multiple trajectories. It's adapting, a scientist said in awe and terror. It's teaching us. The human ship did not move. "We learned too late," the voice said. "You have not. Yet." The Chancellor closed his eyes briefly, then opened them. "Prepare evacuation protocols," he said. The chamber froze. "Sir." "Begin controlled dimming of outer systems," the Chancellor continued. "Selective shutdowns. Civilian priority." The orders echoed outward like shockwaves. Protests ignited instantly across the Empire. But something else happened too. On the map, the shadow hesitated. Just for a moment. The human ship brightened slightly. "That hesitation," the human said, "is hope." The Empire was breaking itself to survive. And it still might not be enough. Because the shadow was not alone anymore. A second distortion flickered into existence, farther out, but unmistakably real. The analysts stared in horror. "There's another," one whispered. The human ship remained steady. "Yes," the voice said softly. "There always is." The Empire believed sacrifice would save it. It had not yet learned the truth. Sacrifice only buys time. The First World went dark without a battle. Imperial citizens watched it happen live. At the edge of the Empire's outer spiral, a densely populated system, once a symbol of prosperity, began its controlled shutdown. Power grids dimmed. Orbital traffic halted. Stations disengaged and drifted outward, silent and cold. Evacuation ships moved in long, orderly lines. No panic. No explosions. Just absence. The Empire had never abandoned a world before. Not truly. Wars destroyed planets. Disaster scarred them. But abandonment, planned, deliberate, and accepted, was unheard of. "This is madness," commentators cried across Imperial media. "We are erasing ourselves." But on the human ship, the crew watched without judgment. They had done this before. The human vessel remained near the capital, still quiet, still restrained. It did not issue commands. It did not interfere. It was observed. "The shadow is slowing," an Imperial scientist said, disbelief creeping into his voice. On the human map, the distortion hesitated again, its paths adjusting, less certain. "It's confusing," another analyst said. "No," the human voice replied gently. "It's recalculating." The Empire's leaders gathered in a smaller chamber now, one without ceremonial light or banners. Only function remained. "How many worlds did you abandon?" the Chancellor asked the human ship. The answer did not come immediately. "Enough," the human finally said. That was not satisfactory. Halvern leaned forward. "Numbers matter," he said. "Lives matter." "Yes," the human replied. "That is why we stopped counting them like resources." The word struck harder than the accusation. The human ship transmitted a new data set, not tactical, not predictive. Historical. Images filled the room. A human colony world under twin suns. Children running beneath open skies. Cities half-built, hopeful. Then the same world years later, cities dismantled, oceans untouched, skies empty. "We learned," the human said, "that survival is not about holding ground. It is about choosing where memory continues." The Empire had never thought that way. They preserved territory, influence, power. Humans preserve people. Another image appeared. A human fleet, not large, not impressive, standing between a shadow and a convoy of evacuation ships. The fleet did not fire. It stayed. The image is cut out. "That fleet died," the human said. "On purpose." The room remained silent. "They did not slow it," an admiral said. "They didn't stop it." "No," the human replied. "They made it visible." The map shifted again. That sacrifice point glowed faintly, like a scar in space. "That is how we learned its shape," the human continued. "How it reacts. What it ignores." The Empire had lost fleets by accident. Humans lost them by design. "That is not strategy," an Imperial commander said weakly. "That is despair." The human voice softened. "No, despair is losing everything because you refuse to choose." Outside the capital, evacuation spread. Trade hubs dimmed. Luxury habitats shut down entirely. Entire species protested the loss of comfort they had never imagined losing. Riots broke out in some sectors. The Empire cracked along cultural lines. And still, the shadow advanced. Slower now, but adapting. "It's learning to hunt quieter prey," a scientist warned. "Yes," the human agreed. "It always does." The Chancellor's hands trembled slightly. "Then this buys us nothing," he said. "It buys you what it bought us," the human replied. "Time to decide what must survive." The human ship transmitted one final set of images. Humanity after withdrawal. Not broken. Changed. Smaller fleets. No monuments. No broadcast capitals. But alive. Children born who never saw the old stars. Cultures condensed, resilient. Technology refined not for dominance, but endurance. We stopped asking how to win, the humans said. We asked how to continue. The Empire had never asked that question. They assumed continuation was automatic. A new alert cut through the chamber. The second shadow, previously distant, had altered course. It was no longer parallel. It was converging. Two paths. One destination. They're coordinating, an analyst whispered. The human ship brightened slightly, systems activating in patterns unseen before. This is the moment, the humans said. Now you will see the difference between us. What difference? Halvern asked. The human ship moved. Not away from the capital. Toward the shadows. Imperial fleets reacted instantly, breaking formation. Where are you going? The Chancellor demanded. To make noise, the human replied. Confusion rippled through the chamber. You told us noise attracts them, the Chancellor said. Yes, the human said. Which is why it must not be you. The human ship accelerated, not fast, not flashy, deliberate. Its emissions spiked suddenly, flooding sensors. On the map, both shadows reacted. They turned. Fully. Locked. The human ship did not flee. It did not fire. It was broadcast. Not weapons. History. A dense signal. Human languages, patterns, memories. Loud. Complex. Impossible to ignore. The shadows surged. The Empire watched in horror. You'll die, someone said. The human voice came one last time, steady and unafraid. We already decided who must live. The human ship vanished into distortion. Not destroyed. Engaged. The shadows followed it. Both of them, drawn away from Imperial space, paths bending toward the loudest thing in existence. Imperial sensors struggled to keep track. Then I lost them. Silence returned. The map cleared. The Empire remained. Alive, but smaller. Broken. Changed. The Chancellor stared at the empty space where the human ship had been. They sacrificed themselves, he whispered. Halvern shook his head slowly. No, he said. They showed us how much they had already sacrificed before we ever noticed. The Empire had been saved. For now. But the cost was no longer abstract. Humanity had stepped into the dark again. Not because they wanted to, but because someone else finally mattered enough. The Empire believed the humans had given their lives. It did not yet understand the truth. Humans never send what they can't afford to lose. For 3 hours after the human ship vanished, nothing happened. No explosions. No shockwaves. No debris. Imperial sensors searched every frequency, every dimension they understood. They found nothing. The shadows were gone. The human ship was gone. And the galaxy held its breath. Inside the Imperial capital, fear did not fade. It sharpened. Confirm loss, an admiral said quietly. There is no confirmation, the sensor chief replied. There is nothing. That was worse. The Empire had always relied on the aftermath. Wreckage. Radiation. Clear results. Humanity left none. They cannot have survived, another commander said, more to himself than anyone else. Nothing survives direct engagement. Halvern did not answer. He was watching the human map. It had not vanished. It had changed. New lines appeared where none existed before. Thin, deliberate paths cutting through the darkness the shadows once occupied. What is that? The Chancellor asked. Halvern leaned closer. Routes, he said slowly. They're not chasing anymore. They're guiding. As if summoned by the words, the map updated again. A signal appeared. Humans. Weak. Fragmented. But alive. The chamber erupted. They survived. How? From where? The transmission stabilized just enough for sound. The human voice was different now. Strained, but calm. We are intact, it said. Partially. The Chancellor exhaled for the first time in hours. You led them away, he said. Yes, the human replied. Along corridors we prepared long ago. Prepared. That word echoed. You knew this would happen, Halvern said. Yes, the human answered. Eventually, the map expanded. Far beyond Imperial space, faint markers appeared. Human installations hidden in dead zones, voids, regions the Empire had never bothered to chart. Listening posts. Signal traps. Gravitational snares. Humanity had not been idle in isolation. They had been building a cage. We could not kill them, the humans said, but we could teach them where to go. The Empire stared at the scope of it. How long? The Chancellor asked. The human paused. How long have you not looked at us? It replied. The answer was clear. Decades. Humanity had spent decades preparing for an enemy no one else believed in. The shadows reappeared on the map, not closer, but contained, moving along paths not of their choosing. They're following the signal, a scientist said, like predators on a trail. Yes, the human replied. We taught them to. The human ship's image flickered, scarred now, damaged, but operational. We lost ships, the human continued. Not today. Over time. Testing. Learning. The Empire felt something unfamiliar tighten in its core. Shame. You let your people die for this, an admiral demanded. No, the human replied evenly. We let them choose. Silence followed. The Empire had never offered its citizens that choice. Outside the capital, systems continued to dim. Worlds evacuated earlier remained dark. Trade slowed. Power redistributed. The Empire was quieter now, and for the first time, that quiet felt intentional. They're slowing further, a sensor officer reported. The shadows are hesitating. The human ship brightened slightly. They've entered unfamiliar space, the human said. They don't like traps that don't grow. The Chancellor leaned forward. What happens now? The human did not answer immediately. Instead, the map shifted again. A region appeared, vast, empty, ancient. No stars. No lanes. A dead pocket of space avoided by every known species. That region is forbidden, an Imperial scientist said. Unstable. Unusable. Yes, the human replied. Which is why it is perfect. Understanding dawned slowly. You're leading them there, Halvern said. Yes. And then, the Chancellor pressed. The human voice softened. Then we leave them something loud. A new symbol appeared on the map. Humans. Large. Dense. What is that? The Chancellor asked. A memory, the human replied. The symbol pulsed. Energy readings spiked beyond anything Imperial science had ever measured. A star, someone whispered. No, the human said. A decision. The Empire watched as the human ship adjusted course, still ahead of the shadows, still guiding them toward the dead region. This device, the human continued, cannot be moved. It cannot be hidden. It will burn brightly for a very long time. You're sacrificing it, the Chancellor realized. Yes. And yourselves? The Chancellor asked. The human paused. No, it said. We learned that lesson. The map zoomed closer. Hidden human fleets, small, precise, waited at the edge of the dead region. Not attacking, not fleeing, positioned. Once they enter, the human said, they will not leave. The shadows surged, sensing the growing signal ahead. They'll consume it, an analyst said. Yes, the human agreed. They will try. The Empire held its breath. And when will they do it? The Chancellor asked. The human answer was simple. They will starve. The chamber went silent. They cannot create, the human explained. They only follow complexity. When the signal burns out, there will be nothing left for them to chase. The Empire struggled to grasp it. You're not destroying them, Halvern said. No, the human replied. We are ending the hunt. The shadows crossed the threshold into the dead region. Imperial sensors flickered violently, then steadied. The human signal ignited fully. The map blazed. Then, nothing. The shadows vanished. Gone from every frequency. Gone from every model. Gone. The human ship's transmission weakened. The trap is set, the voice said. It will hold for a long time. The Chancellor rose slowly. You saved us, he said. No, the human replied. You finally helped yourselves. The human signal began to fade. We will withdraw again, the voice continued. But not unseen. The map was updated one final time. Human space, quiet, spread, resilient, now linked faintly to Imperial territory. A choice had been made. The Empire would never be allowed again, and humanity would never be ignored again. The Empire believed the danger had passed. It did not yet understand that humanity had only closed the first door. Victory did not feel like celebration. There were no cheers in the Imperial capital. No parades. No speeches filled with triumph. The lights remained dimmed. Entire districts stayed offline. Some worlds were still silent, evacuated and uncertain if they would ever be reclaimed. The Empire had survived, but survival had changed its shape. Inside the high assembly chamber, representatives from hundreds of species gathered for the first time since the crisis began. The chamber itself looked different, less bright, less imposing. Even the architecture had been adjusted to reduce energy bleed. The age of being seen was over. The Chancellor stood before them, older than he had been weeks earlier. "We are alive," he began, "because we learned something too late and accepted it just in time." Murmurs filled the chamber. "They should never have been allowed that close," one delegate hissed. "Humanity endangered us all." Others disagreed. "They saved us," another replied, "at a cost we never paid." The Chancellor raised a hand. "Both are true." Silence followed. "The human fleets are withdrawing," he continued. "As promised. They do not seek territory. They do not seek reward." That unsettled the chamber more than any threat. Empires understood conquest. They understood tribute. They did not understand restraint. A military delegate stood. "They must be contained," he said. "What can they do? No species should possess alone." The words echoed a familiar fear. Halvern turned slowly. "You mean what they prepared to do?" he corrected. "While we were busy being loud." The human ship had not returned to its original position near the capital. It lingered farther out now, present, but no longer central. Watching, listening. The human voice had not spoken since the trap closed. Some feared silence more than the shadows. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The dead region where the trap was set remained quiet, unnaturally so. The human signal burned steadily, contained, diminishing by design. The shadows did not reappear, but something else did. Scattered across outer systems, old sensors recorded faint distortions, echoes of movement that no longer aligned with Imperial maps. Residual activity, scientists reported. Not hostile, not organized. Fragments, remnants of a hunt that no longer had a path. They didn't destroy everything, an analyst said. "No," Halvern replied. "They broke the pattern." The realization spread. Humanity did not end threats by domination. They ended them by denying purpose. That frightened the galaxy. The assembly reconvened daily, debating humanity's status. Some demanded sanctions. Others demanded alliance. None demanded war. That silence said more than words. In a smaller chamber, the Chancellor finally spoke directly to the human ship. "You said you would not withdraw unseen," he said. The reply came quietly. "We didn't." A projection appeared, small, understated. A single human symbol, now visible on Imperial star charts. Not bright, not central, but impossible to erase. "What does that mean?" the Chancellor asked. "It means," the human replied, "you will remember where not to build." The words lingered. Humanity was not asking for protection. They were drawing boundaries of responsibility. The Empire's military council struggled most with the aftermath. "We could have forced control," an admiral argued. "Captured their technology." "And triggered what?" Halvern asked. "Another hunt." No one answered. Humanity's power was not in weapons alone. It was in foresight shaped by loss. That kind of power could not be seized, only learned. Across evacuated worlds, citizens began returning slowly. Systems were reactivated, but differently. Less excess, less redundancy, less noise. The Empire rebuilt smaller and stronger for it. In one distant world, a child looked up at a night sky that felt darker than it once had. "Why is it so quiet now?" the child asked. An elder answered softly, "So it doesn't notice us." Elsewhere, rumors spread through neutral systems. Stories of humans who walked away from greatness. Of fleets that waited in silence while others boasted. Of a species that refused to rule and yet reshaped the galaxy. Fear followed those stories. So did respect. The human ship finally spoke again. This time not to the Empire, but to the assembly as a whole. "You will be tempted," the voice said, "to become quiet only when afraid." The chamber listened. "That is not enough," the human continued. "Quiet must become discipline, not reaction." "What happens if we forget?" a delegate asked. The human paused. "Then you will build another beacon," it replied. "And something else will follow it." The words were not a threat. They were history. The Chancellor stood. "What are you now?" he asked. "Observers? Guardians?" The human answer was immediate. "Witnesses." The human ship began its slow withdrawal, slipping into lanes that Imperial sensors still struggled to follow. No escort followed. None dared. As it faded, Halvern felt an unfamiliar weight settle over the Empire. Responsibility, not enforced, shared. The assembly dissolved with no formal declaration, no treaty, no hierarchy change. Yet everyone present understood the truth. The galaxy now had a memory older than fear. Humanity. And that memory would not shout if ignored. It would simply wait. The stars beyond imperial space remained quiet. Too quiet to be comforting. Because now the galaxy knew. If something loud enough to scare humans ever returned, humanity would already be ready. The Empire believed peace had been restored. It did not yet realize the final truth. Peace was only possible because someone else had already paid for it. The galaxy did not announce its change. There was no official declaration. No new era named by the Empire. No monument built to mark survival. The change revealed itself slowly, through absence. Trade routes once crowded became sparse. Military formations spread out instead of stacking. Capital worlds dimmed their excess light. Expansion plans were quietly canceled. The galaxy learned to breathe softer. Historians would later argue over when the panic truly began. Some claimed it was the moment the human ship appeared near the capital. Others said it was when the shadows vanished. But the truth was simpler. The panic began when the Empire understood why the human warship had been allowed to get that close. Inside a sealed Imperial archive, Grand Strategist Halvern recorded the final classified analysis. His voice was calm, but his hands trembled slightly. "This is not a record of invasion," he said. "This is a record of restraint." The archive displayed the moment again, the first detection of the human vessel, already inside the deepest defense ring. "It bypassed every system," Halvern continued. "Not because our defenses failed, but because they were designed to stop enemies who wanted to enter." The implication was chilling. The human ship did not enter Imperial space. It had always been able to. Across the galaxy, fragments of the truth spread. Independent analysts confirmed that the human ship's route had no unique weakness. No exploited gap. No stolen code. It had simply moved in a way the Empire never imagined possible. Quietly. Patiently. Without permission. And that realization terrified civilizations more than the shadows ever had. Because predators could be fought. But neighbors who chose restraint could not be controlled. The human fleets withdrew completely within weeks. Not in a single direction, not in formation, not leaving trails. They faded, system by system, until only the faint human markers remained on updated star charts. Not territories. Warnings. Do not build loudly here. Do not stack life carelessly here. Do not forget what draws attention. Some species mocked those markings. They did not do so for long. Explorers who crossed them reported strange things. Systems that felt empty but alive. Regions where sensors failed not violently, but politely. Ships that vanished from tracking not through destruction, but disinterest. Humanity was not hiding. Humanity was elsewhere. The Empire struggled with its new place in the galaxy. For the first time in its history, it was not the strongest thing in the room. Not because someone had taken its power, but because someone had refused to compete for it. The Chancellor addressed the assembly one final time before stepping down. "We believed power meant expansion," he said. "Then we believed power meant survival. Now we understand something harder." The chamber listened. "Power," he said, "is knowing when not to be seen." The human ship did not attend. It was not invited. It did not need to be. On a distant human world, small, quiet, unremarkable, a group of children listened as an elder told a story under a dim sky. They did not learn the Empire's name. They did not memorize the shadow's shape. They learned only one lesson. "We do not shout to prove we are strong," the elders said. "We whisper so others may live." One child asked the question that always came. "Why did we save them?" The elder looked up at the stars for a long time before answering. "Because no one saved us," they said. "And we decided that would end with us." Far away, an Imperial patrol drifted along a border that no longer glowed. The captain watched the darkness carefully. Not in fear. In respect. Sensors detected nothing unusual. And that was exactly how everyone wanted it. The classified archive sealed itself after Halvern's recording. Its final line was restricted to the highest clearance. It read, "The Empire did not panic because a human warship reached the capital. The Empire panicked because it finally understood the truth. Humanity had never been locked out. Humanity had been choosing not to come in. And if they ever stopped choosing, no defense ring would matter. No fleet would be fast enough. No empire would have time to panic again. The galaxy survived not because humanity was strongest, but because humanity was disciplined, patient, quiet, and still watching. The galaxy feared the day humanity would return. It never realized the truth. Humanity never left.